Alright, welcome to another episode of Truck Camper Cooking. My name is Michael. We are in the back of my all-aluminum homemade truck camper, and today's video is going to be a special one. I'm very excited for this. I've been wanting to make a video like this for a long time, and today will be the first of its kind. So without further ado, let's jump right into today's topic. Today's video is going to be all about the Stoke Voltaics all-electric cooking system. Very excited to test out a product like this. So this is not something that I purchased with my own money. I was fortunate enough to have the company reach out and send me a unit to test out. Very excited to use this. I have always been contemplating using some type of electric cooker with my inverter. You know, in a camper like this, you have the ability to be self-sufficient with your battery consumption. So the idea of removing a fuel source and utilizing the battery power that you already have harnessed from your solar, that whole concept is really interesting to me. So this being a 1000 watt cooker with the various cooking modes, changes the wattage, all of that should be within the threshold of my 1000 watt inverter. All of that being said, these are all the fine details we will get to, but I'm just excited to use it. So for right now, let's get into an unboxing and we'll see what we are working with. I got the user manual and some stickers. On the top here, we have the 110 power cord and what appears to be the handle for the pot system. Next up is the lid for the pot system. This looks pretty nice. I'm already impressed with the finish of the metal. It seems very lightweight. Take a few things out and we can see what they all are. Alright, this is quite the system. We have a lot of components here. Let's see how they all look and how they all interact together. So this appears to be the cooking base. I'm very impressed with the packaging of this unit. Seems to be well thought out and well protected. Alright, this is pretty cool looking. I have got a lid, a base, a boiling pot, and a skillet pot. Initial reaction is these feel quite substantial. So if I pick up the boiling pot or the skillet pot, they actually have some weight to them. I'd like to learn more, but I believe it has to do with the method of heating. Somehow interacting with this base, it does not feel like a dinky little pot. So I'm quite impressed by that. It looks like we have a nice non-stick surface, and I do like these ridges that you have in the skillet pot. It'll be interesting to see what I cook in either pot. This seems to be more liquid based as it is a boiling pot setup, and the skillet seems to be more useful for cooking, browning things up, sauteing, things of that nature. These might be interchangeable. I'll have to learn more. The liquid pot has a higher sidewall, so that might be beneficial for cooking. But yeah, I'm just excited. This is really cool. I'm going to take a few minutes to look through the notes here and talk about any highlights with you guys. So this is what I briefly mentioned earlier regarding wattage. And one of the reasons I'm most excited to try this cooker is the different heating levels are all within the threshold of the 1000 watts. So there are 5 heating levels, and that should be visible on the base. It might be digital, we will find out. But it has a 200 watt, 400 watt, 600 watt, 800 watt, and 1000 watt heating level. So that basically determines your heat and power consumption. And it's just nice to know that This whole system, even on full blast, is safe within the 1000 watt inverter that I have. Alright, looks like it is a LED display on the reactor base. So we will get into that and see how that looks. And just a simple breakdown of the wattage levels. It says 200 watts is a simmer, keep warm. 400 watt is low. 600 watt is medium. 800 watt is medium high. And 1000 watt is high. So that's a good thing to know regarding power consumption and what level of heat you were actually trying to use for what you're cooking. Now, if we're using the boiling pot, it might be, common for the high mode and drawing more power at 1000 watts. If we're cooking up something simple like breakfast, I could see a 400 or 600 watt consumption being adequate, as that would be a low to medium cook level. One of the other things I'm not quite used to is having a pan with a detachable handle. So looking at the manual and looking here, it looks like with the push of a button, it extends out further. Place it on the pot itself and then twist to lock in place, which actually is pretty nice. I am a fan of a detachable handle in a small space like this, because now, much easier to clean, much easier to store. It even feels like it has some type of rubber or silicone little feet on it, so as it grabs the pan, it's not going to scratch up that nonstick surface. Try it out with the skillet as well. Alright, that works pretty well. Definitely these pans feel slightly heavier than a normal pan. Now, I don't have that much experience with electric cookware, but this is all new to me and I'm excited to see how it goes. One other thing I want to talk about as an initial reaction, I really enjoy this color scheme. So it's mostly black, gray, and then an accent of orange. It's pretty subtle, but I am a fan of how they designed this up. So this is mainly an unboxing and first test video. I am going to make a separate first meal using this cooker, but for now I need to test it out and make sure that it actually works and get a feel for how the power levels work, make sure the power consumption is healthy, make sure that I'll be able to actually cook a whole meal based off of my battery storage, and yeah, just test all those things out. So electric cookers are new to me. I have seen the appeal of them, and yeah, we're gonna test it out and see how it works. I'm gonna plug the power cord into the base and then into my inverter. Alright, the reactor base is plugged into the inverter. I fired up the inverter. The logo of Stoke Voltaics came on the LED digital display. I don't think the camera picks up that LED quite well. I hope it does. So let's start with a simple test. I'm going to get the skillet hooked up to the reactor base, try out some different power levels. I want to see the heat feel of my hand over the pan, and then see how much power consumption it is drawing. Alright, so one thing right off the bat that I noticed in my camper is the LED lights are flickering right after I powered on the unit. That is not the best feeling. However, I don't think I have any actual issue with power consumption. I do need to look up why that is happening. But for now, I have it testing on 400 watts and we will see what the heat level feels like. Alright, so small update. The LED lights in my camper seem to flicker when I'm running this unit. I looked it up briefly online and it appears that somehow the voltage load that this is drawing is interfering with the load that is being supplied to these lights and causing a flicker. I honestly don't think it is a wattage consumption issue or pulling too many amps out of my battery. I think the electrical system that I have is robust enough to handle something like this. However, somehow the configuration of these LED lights with this running seems to be a slight issue. So what I'm going to do for right now is I'm going to cut my lights, open up this back window so there's enough natural light in here, and continue with my testing. I really think I can figure out how to make this work. This is one of those real world experiences where this is new to me, new addition to the electrical setup, and I just have to troubleshoot it a little bit. So I'm going to cut the lights, get this window open, and continue with my tests. So I'll apologize ahead of time now for the change in lighting. Hopefully you can still see well enough. So I'm going to take a peek at my battery monitor over here and see what type of wattage we are pulling from the various modes using this system. So let's get the cooktop fired up. So I just switched it into the 200 watt mode. Looks like it is firing up and pulling a good amount of wattage. Hovering right around that 150 watt mark. I'm going to boost it up to the 400 watt mode. And quickly jumped up to 350, 360 watts. I'm going to boost it all the way up to high and see how that handles. Alright, I see 1 kilowatt, so 1000 watts of consumption is being used, and this is pretty cool to see. I hear the inverter fan running, so it's cooling it down. Everything seems to be running pretty well. So I have the 1000 watt mode on, and I can definitely feel the heat here. I'm going to crank it back down to 400 and see how it feels. Right away, the inverter fan shut off. I think at the 400 watt mark, it is much less of a power draw than, of course, the 1000 watt. All right, for those that don't know, in addition to my 1000 watt inverter, I have a 200 amp hour LifePo4 battery that resides behind my Walmart plastic bins that's underneath my bed. So basically this system works by having 200 watts of solar on the roof coming into a DC to DC and solar charge controller. So I don't have the DC to DC hooked up. However, with the 200 watts of solar charging my 200 amp hours of LifePo4 battery, that system seems to keep me fully self-sufficient while using the fridge 24/7, using Starlink here and there, the lights, and all of that. So this will be a trial and error run as far as how much this consumes in relation to my power capacity. As of right now, it seems like I will be able to definitely use this and should have plenty of power throughput, but that will be determined through a longer meal. So I'll have to keep an eye on how much this actually consumes. I'm sure if I keep this in the 200 to 400 watt mode, that is much better than 800, 1000 watts at a continuous usage. Overall, I'm really impressed. It is a slight unfortunate case with the flickering lights. If you guys have any tips on that, please leave it down in the comments. It is something later on I'm going to research in depth just to see whether it's a light issue, a voltage consumption issue, or whatever the issue may be. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and power down the unit, get the lights back on, and give some final thoughts. Thank you guys for bearing with me on this video. I have a lot of excitement as it comes to this product. I want to give a big shout out to Stoke Voltaics for sending me this unit. I'm excited to use it, work out the kinks, and see how it interacts with my power system. I will be making more videos on this shortly. Right now, I wanted to get out an unboxing and first impressions video, see how it works with the power. I have already learned something that I'll have to troubleshoot, and that is the lights. So if you do have any feedback on flickering lights when using a inverter, let me know. Hopefully it is something simple regarding the light I chose to use, or somehow regarding the voltage consumption by this compared to that. I really have to research it, but if you know anything on this topic, please leave it down in the comments below. Yeah, just very excited about this. Stay tuned for more on this cooker, and I will catch you guys in the next one.